Imagine this. You're standing in a room full of people, speaking, sharing, giving your energy, but no one looks up. No one acknowledges you. You wave, you reach out, and still nothing. That silence, that cold shoulder, that deliberate disregard. It stings. It makes you question yourself. Did I do something wrong? Am I not enough? Should I try harder? There is a moment in life when you realize that someone's silence is louder than their words. That sharp sting of being ignored, overlooked, or dismissed. It's a feeling that can shake your confidence if you let it. But here's what most people don't tell you. When someone ignores you, it has nothing to do with your worth and everything to do with their choices. Think about it. If a diamond is buried deep underground, does it lose its value just because no one has found it yet? If the sun is hidden behind clouds, does it stop shining? Your value exists whether people acknowledge it or not. You don't become less because someone refuses to see your brilliance. The only mistake you can make is believing that their indifference defines you. We live in a world where attention is currency, where being seen feels like validation, but true power comes from knowing who you are even when no one is looking. People will ignore you for many reasons, sometimes out of ego, sometimes because they take you for granted, and sometimes simply because they don't recognize your worth. But none of these reasons should ever make you doubt yourself. The strongest people don't chase, they evolve. They grow in silence, they rise in resilience, and they become undeniable. When you understand that being ignored does not diminish your worth, you stop looking outward for validation and start building an unshakable belief in yourself. You start realizing that the people meant for you, the opportunities designed for you, and the success waiting for you will never require you to beg for recognition. So let them ignore you. Let them assume you need their attention to feel important. Because one day, when you're standing in your power, when your presence commands respect without you even asking for it, they will see what they missed. And by then, you won't need their validation. You will have already given it to yourself. There is a dangerous trap that many people fall into, the belief that if someone ignores you, you must try harder to be seen. You push, you prove, you overextend yourself, hoping that if you give more, they will finally recognize your worth. But let's be honest. Has chasing ever led to true respect? Has begging for attention ever made anyone value you more? The reality is, chasing people who disregard you is like running after a mirage in the desert. Exhausting, disorienting, and ultimately pointless. When someone chooses to ignore you, they are making a statement. Not responding is a response. Not prioritizing you is an answer. And the more you chase, the more you tell them that their disregard is acceptable. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. If you keep knocking on a closed door, you're only reinforcing the idea that your presence is optional, that your value depends on their approval. But here's the truth. They don't hold the key to your worth. You do. Real power comes from understanding when to walk away. It's not about being arrogant or holding grudges. It's about respecting yourself enough to stop proving what should be obvious. When you chase, you lower your energy to match those who don't see your light. When you walk away, you rise, and when you rise, the right people, those who truly value you, are drawn to you naturally. Some of the most extraordinary transformations happen in silence, not in pursuit. When you stop running after people who take you for granted, you create space for those who truly appreciate you. You shift from seeking validation to embodying self-worth. And that shift, that's when everything changes. So the next time someone ignores you, don't chase. Let them make their choice and you make yours. Choose to protect your energy, choose to honor your value, and choose to walk away with grace, because the ones who truly matter will never make you beg to be seen. There is something powerful about a person who knows their worth, not in arrogance, not in ego, but in the quiet confidence of someone who understands that their presence is a privilege, not a request. Too often, people shrink themselves, bend over backward, and beg to be noticed, thinking that if they just prove their value, they will finally be accepted. But the truth is, the moment you start believing you have to convince someone to see your worth, you have already given them power over you. Your presence in someone's life is not something they should take for granted. The love, the energy, the loyalty, and the wisdom you bring, it's not common, it's not replaceable, but if you don't recognize that, you allow others to treat you as if you're optional, you wait for their texts, you tolerate their silence, you excuse their neglect, all because you believe that one day they will wake up and realize what you've been worth all along. But people don't value what is always available. They value what they believe they could lose. When you truly understand your worth, you stop waiting for someone to acknowledge it. You don't plead for attention. You don't linger in spaces where you are not appreciated. You don't exhaust yourself proving your significance. Instead, you carry yourself like someone who knows they belong. Not because others say so, but because you have decided that for yourself. And when you make that shift, something extraordinary happens. You stop attracting people who take you for granted and start drawing in those who respect your presence. You no longer tolerate half-hearted efforts, inconsistent behavior, or breadcrumbs of attention. You hold your head high, knowing that you are not someone people settle for when it's convenient. You are someone they should feel fortunate to have in their life. So let them ignore you. Let them think you will always be there, waiting, because one day when they finally realize what they lost, you won't be waiting anymore. You will be walking in your power, surrounded by those who never needed to be convinced to see your worth. People respect what they have to work for. It's a simple truth, yet so many forget it when it comes to relationships, friendships, and even opportunities. When you give too much of yourself to people who haven't earned it, when you make yourself too available, too eager, too accommodating, you unknowingly lower your value in their eyes, because what comes easy is rarely cherished. What is handed over without effort is often taken for granted. Think about it. Why do people chase after the things that seem just out of reach? Why do they work harder for something that challenges them, something that isn't easily attainable? It's because human nature desires what feels valuable, and value is often linked to effort. When someone doesn't have to work to earn your presence, they assume they can have it whenever they want. They assume you will always be there waiting, regardless of how they treat you. But when you remove yourself, when you stop giving them effortless access to you, that's when they begin to realize what they had. You don't need to beg for someone's time, attention, or love. You don't need to overextend yourself to prove you are worthy. Your worth is already established. It is not up for debate, and it is not defined by whether or not someone acknowledges it. The moment you stop chasing, you reclaim your power. The moment you stop making excuses for those who ignore you, you shift the dynamic. And it changes everything. Because suddenly they start noticing your absence. They start wondering why the person who once prioritized them no longer does. They start realizing that they had something valuable and now they might lose it, but by then you will have already made the most important realization of all, that you were never meant to be something people take for granted. You were meant to be respected, appreciated, and valued without having to chase for it. And the right people, they will never need to be convinced of that. There is something profoundly heartbreaking about feeling invisible in the presence of people you care about. You show up for them, you support them, you make space in your life for them. But when it's time for them to do the same, there's only silence. They don't acknowledge your efforts, they don't prioritize you, and worst of all, they make you feel like you don't even exist. And that feeling, the feeling of being ignored, can shake even the strongest person's confidence. But here's what you must remember: the right people will never make you feel invisible. People who genuinely care about you will never leave you questioning your worth. They won't make you chase after their attention, they won't respond to your kindness with indifference, and they won't treat your presence as something ordinary. The ones who truly value you will see you not just when they need something, not just when it's convenient, but always. Because when someone genuinely respects and appreciates you, they don't let you wonder where you stand in their life. The mistake many people make is believing that if they try harder, if they give more, if they prove their loyalty enough, they will finally be noticed. But the truth is, when you have to fight to be seen, you're in the wrong place. Love, respect, and true connection do not require constant justification. They flow naturally. They feel effortless. The right people don't need to be convinced of your value because they recognize it from the very beginning. So if someone ignores you, let them make their choice and you make yours. Choose to be with those who uplift you, who celebrate you, who show up for you without hesitation. The ones who truly belong in your life will never leave you in the shadows, because they know that you are not someone to be overlooked. You are someone to be cherished. There is a quiet power in walking away with dignity. It's the kind of power that doesn't need loud words, explanations, or desperate attempts to be understood. It's the power of someone who knows their worth so deeply that they refuse to chase those who do not see it. When you hold your head high and remove yourself from situations where you are not valued, you don't lose anything. You gain everything. When you chase people who ignore you, you are subconsciously telling them that your presence is something they can take for granted. That no matter how little they give, no matter how much they disregard you, you will always be there, waiting, hoping, proving. But the moment you stop chasing, the moment you choose yourself instead, the energy shifts. You are no longer the one seeking validation. You become the one who is sought after. People are drawn to confidence, to self-respect, to the kind of energy that doesn't beg. When you carry yourself with quiet assurance, when you walk away from people and situations that do not align with your value, you become magnetic. You stop being an option. You start becoming a priority, not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. This is not about arrogance. It's not about playing games or trying to manipulate people into noticing you. It's about knowing deep in your soul that you deserve to be in spaces where you are appreciated, not just tolerated. When you understand this, you don't waste time chasing. You simply step back, knowing that the right people will always gravitate toward you, not because you begged for their attention, but because your presence is something they never want to lose. Holding on to people who ignore you is like gripping sand. No matter how tightly you try to keep it, it slips through your fingers. The more you chase, the more you beg for attention, The more you stay in spaces where you are overlooked, the further you push yourself away from what is truly meant for you. When you hold on to those who do not see your value, you close the door to better opportunities, healthier relationships, and the kind of life you deserve. There is a reason some people do not acknowledge your presence. Sometimes it's because they don't appreciate what's in front of them. Sometimes it's because they are too distracted by their own world, and sometimes it's because they simply do not belong in your story. But instead of recognizing this truth, you cling to the hope that one day they will wake up and realize what you mean to them. That one day your efforts will finally be enough. But what if that day never comes? What if, while waiting for them, you are missing out on the people who already see you, appreciate you, and are ready to stand beside you without hesitation? Life has a way of redirecting us toward what is meant for us, but only if we are willing to let go of what is not. The friendships, relationships, and opportunities that align with your worth will never require you to lower your standards, chase after attention, or prove that you deserve to be noticed. They will come naturally, effortlessly, without force. But for them to find you, you must first make space by releasing what is no longer serving you. So stop fighting for a place in someone's life when they have already made it clear that they do not see your value. Stop knocking on doors that refuse to open. Instead, turn around and walk toward the people, the places, and the opportunities that are waiting for you with open arms. Because once you do, you will realize that everything you were chasing was nothing compared to what was meant for you all along. Silence is not just the absence of words, it is a language of its own. When someone ignores you, their silence speaks volumes. It tells you where you stand in their life. It tells you how much they value your presence. But more than that, it gives you a choice. Will you keep chasing, or will you embrace the power of walking away? Most people believe that if they keep reaching out, if they keep proving their worth, they will eventually get the response they long for. But here's the truth: silence is often the strongest answer you will ever receive. If someone truly cares, they will not leave you in a state of confusion. If they genuinely value you, they will not make you question your place in their life. And if they don't, then no amount of effort on your part will change that. There is strength in saying nothing. There is power in not reacting, in not pleading for attention, in not demanding explanations from those who refuse to give them. When you choose silence in response to being ignored, you shift the dynamic. You show them that you are not someone who will beg to be noticed. You make it clear that you do not depend on their validation to feel worthy. And that realization, that is when everything changes. People start to wonder why you stop reaching out. They begin to question their own actions. But by then you will have already moved forward. Because silence is not just an absence, it is a statement. It tells the world that you respect yourself too much to fight for a place in someone's life when they have already chosen to exclude you. It says that you are secure enough to let go of those who do not appreciate you. And most importantly, it makes room for the right people, those who will never need to be reminded of your worth. There will come a day when the ones who ignored you, the ones who made you feel invisible, will finally see what they lost. They will look back and realize that the person who once gave them unconditional attention, loyalty, and care is no longer waiting. They will remember the moments when you reached out, when you showed up, when you made them a priority, even when they barely acknowledged your presence. And by then it will be too late. People often fail to recognize the value of something when it is right in front of them. They assume you will always be there, that your patience is endless, that no matter how much They overlook you, you will keep trying. But what they don't understand is that even the kindest hearts have limits. Even the most patient souls eventually stop waiting. And when that moment comes, when you finally decide to walk away, it will be the moment they realize just how much they took for granted. But here's the thing, by the time they come to this realization, you will have changed. You will have grown into someone who no longer seeks validation from those who once ignored you. You will have moved forward, embraced new opportunities, and surrounded yourself with people who appreciate you without hesitation. Their sudden recognition of your worth will no longer matter because you will no longer need it. The beauty of life is that it has a way of teaching people the value of what they once overlooked. But your lesson is different. Your lesson is to understand that your worth was never tied to their acknowledgement. Your lesson is to realize that you never lost them, they lost you. And the moment you embrace that truth, you become unstoppable. There is a moment in life when you must decide who you are and what you stand for. You must decide whether you will keep chasing after those who overlook you, or whether you will finally step into your own power. Because the truth is, no one determines your worth but you. No one has the right to make you feel small, invisible, or unworthy of love and respect. And if they do, then your greatest power lies in your ability to walk away with dignity. You were never meant to beg for a seat at a table where you are not valued. You were never meant to shrink yourself just to fit into someone else's life. You are not an afterthought, not a backup plan, not a second choice. You are someone who deserves to be seen, heard, and cherished. Not out of obligation, but because the right people will never let you feel ignored in the first place. Let them take you for granted. Let them assume you will always be there. Because one day, when they finally look around, when they finally realize what they lost, you will no longer be within reach. You will have outgrown the spaces that never nurtured you. You will have evolved into someone who no longer waits for validation from those who fail to recognize your brilliance. The world is too vast, too beautiful, and too full of opportunities to waste time chasing after those who do not see your light. The right people, the ones who are meant to be part of your journey, will never need to be convinced to stay. They will stand beside you, not because you begged them to, but because they see the extraordinary person that you are. So when they ignore you, don't chase. Walk away with grace, with confidence, with the quiet assurance that you are enough just as you are. And as you do, remember this: your value was never in question. It was simply waiting for the right people to recognize it.